The newest team in F1 is in trouble, big trouble. With a 2021 average finishing position of 16.5, the Russian-branded US team hasn't been performing as well as they would have liked. With scamming sponsors, pay drivers, and constant clashes, they went in just a short 3 years from best of the rest contenders to being the most lapped cars all around. How did it all go so wrong? Today we're going to be recounting the unfortunate close call of what could have been proof that opening a privateer team can be a successful project. The 2014 F1 season is the one where we saw clear change in the guard between Red Bull and Mercedes. A year with one of the most disgusting and phallic design trends we've seen, and the year where we witnessed the accident that ultimately led to the loss of young driver Jules Bianchi. That season, US businessman Gene Haas announced he would be entering the sport with a team of his own for 2016, a team that would bear the same name as his championship-winning NASCAR team, Haas, this time F1. This decision was come upon after recently departed Red Bull engineer Guenther Steiner convinced Haas of making their own entry after he declined to be a backer of the never finalized US F1 project. They, though, would have to buy, build, and hire everything from scratch. The plan is absolutely to launch in 2016, and we are fully committed to that. I don't think there is any doubt about that whatsoever. From a personal standpoint, I really would have liked to go racing in 2015. It was hard to sit there and say no. Trust me, I really wanted to go, said Gene Haas after being fueled up with F1's successful return to US soil from the 2012 season onwards. Later in the year, a contract was struck with Ferrari to supply the hybrid power plant, and in an unorthodox twist, Italian manufacturers Dallara would be taking on the chassis building. They usually make chassis for Formula 2 or other junior formulas. Shortly after this, it was revealed that Steiner would be the team principal, heading all sporting operations from 2016 onwards. With GP2 third-place finisher Esteban Gutierrez and 10-time podium finisher Romain Grosjean behind the wheels, they had a pretty successful first season. The good power unit and an unusual outsourcing policy regarding the chassis gave them a nice advantage heading into 2016, managing to mix it up with the midfield cars straight away, finishing in the points from their first ever race and mixing it up with the Red Bulls for the second event at Bahrain. This was something that the competition didn't necessarily like though. Eventually, politics died down and something they would become victims of way too often in the coming years reared its ugly head: the development race. Falling behind when it came to bringing upgrades due to tight funds, they eventually finished in 8th, only ahead of also newcomers Renault and backmarkers Sauber and Manor. The 2017 extreme aerodynamic regulations were expected to hurt Haas in a big way, focusing on bits and pieces, wind tunnel testing, CFD runs, and a lot of stuff that the team just didn't have the resources or money for. Needless to say, expectations were not sky high. Replacing Gutierrez, Kevin Magnussen took the wheel, and the opening race in Australia proved rough, with a double DNF after a best ever qualifying position of 6th for the team. But this just made the upcoming races' results surprising. Although they didn't have that big of a budget, they managed to hold on and improve their point tally by 62% when compared to 2016, even when struggling big time with brakes, switching suppliers, and all halfway through the season. Still, competition was tough, and they couldn't improve on their previous season's championship position of 8th after scoring points at more than half the races. If this was a Hollywood movie, the 2018 season would have probably been the end of it. But if it was Avengers: The Infinity War, it would just be the beginning. The Australian Grand Prix was, for the third time in a row, a great venue for the US cars. I mean, they have an Italian power unit, Italian chassis, and 2 European drivers, but whatever, to prove their pure pace. Although come race day, it would come undone. This time they thought they would break the curse after their best qualifying ever. They were on 5th and 6th position when the all too familiar disaster struck. Lap 21, Magnussen pits, and then slows down mid-lap, reporting an engine failure, although footage later reveals that one of the tires was not fitted properly during the stop. One car down, but one still in it, and P5. 2 laps later, Grosjean stops, and in that outlap he realized that the front left was loose. Another retirement, 18 points down the drain. They went from looking like rock stars to wankers in a matter of 5 minutes. They didn't let this push them down though. Swinging back with a P5 in Bahrain, they soon realized their main contenders were going to be French automaker giant Renault and historic team McLaren. They didn't let that intimidate them either. In Austria, they came extremely close to a podium, with a team best finish of 4th and 5th, thanks to both Mercedes retiring. And as they left McLaren behind in the championship, their only focus was to beat Renault, a team with over 3 times their staff. At that point, they were only 13 points behind. Enter the floor controversy, with Haas's underbody T-tray radius exceeding the regulations clarified before the summer break a month prior. They were given until the Italian Grand Prix to make the changes, but due to lack of resources, they could only fit the new floor to Magnussen's car, leaving Grosjean's open for protest. After a 6th place finish for the Frenchman closed the gap to 2 points to Renault, they protested the car and it was subsequently disqualified. Ultimately, they finished the 2018 championship P5, 29 points behind Renault, and with hopes of improving that for 2019. Rich Energy was a drinks company that operated out of Richmond in London. That's pretty much all there is to them. Everything else is either very or extremely sketchy. Financial documents showed Rich Energy's bank balance to have risen from $134 in 2016 to $770 in 2017. I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem like enough to sponsor an F1 team. Enter William Sorry. He tried investing in the Williams team, but then suddenly agreed a deal with Haas to be the title sponsors for the 2019 season, bringing back the black and gold from the 80s Lotuses, even though Gene Haas repeatedly made it clear that his main aim in F1 was to promote his own company. That's why there hadn't been a title sponsor prior to that. Ever since testing results were skewed and taken out of context, since Rich Energy was an energy drinks brand, they set their sights on being #better than Red Bull, something they actually achieved a grand total of 0 times. The season opener soon followed, and as per usual, they had some trouble after promising qualifying with, yes, yet again, wheel organ issues on Grosjean's car that forced him to retire from a promising position. Unlike 2018 though, there would not be a heroic comeback. Tired management issues, brake overheating, and in-track collisions paired with an unpredictable chassis were the recipe for the 2019 disaster season, with some sponsorship trouble garnished for good measure. By the Spanish Grand Prix, one of the only 2 double-point finishes that season was ruined when Rich Energy lost a court case against White Bikes for infringing on their logo's copyright. More pointless races would follow. A big crash for Kevin in Canada come Saturday didn't help, and after the coming together that ultimately led to a double DNF in Great Britain, this tweet was made by the official Rich Energy account, possibly by William Story himself, commenting on the recent poor performance and saying that they had sacked them beforehand, something that the Haas team denied quickly. The tweet was then swiftly deleted. Following a lack of payment, a lost lawsuit, a PR disaster, and a crazy CEO, Haas cut their contract with Rich Energy early, removing the logos but maintaining the livery, managing to scoop up 2 points at the Russian Grand Prix. 2019 was the regression. They finished 9th with 28 points. That's 1 less than their debut season in 2016. Luckily, 2021 would bring a change in regulations, and since 2020 was just gonna be a transition year, it didn't really matter that the regulations didn't allow for much change, right? Well, shit. The delayed start to the season put many teams in jeopardy. They may not have even rejoined the grid for the Austrian Grand Prix. The 2 main ones were Haas and Williams, with one having to give up on their family legacy, selling their team to Doralton Capital, and the other hanging on by a thread. But remember what I said like a minute ago about the car being an evolution? What can evolve from garbage, if not more garbage? Oh, and remember the 2021 regulations? Well, they're being pushed back a year. Yes, that means the same formula for another season. When we finally got going, it was for the first time in Haas's history not in the Australian soil, which didn't make much difference since the season opener at Austria gave them a double DNF for good measure. To continue with the tradition, you know? After qualifying P15 and P16, the furthest down they had ever qualified on a first race, they both retired with brake failures. They grabbed a grand total of 3 points all season and routinely retired at least one car, with both finishing only 9 of the 17 races. Then of course came the crash at the Bahrain Grand Prix. The number 8 Haas crashed head on into the barrier and practically went through it. Grosjean walked out and made a full recovery, but had to be replaced by Pietro Fittipaldi for the last 2 races. They finished 9th in the championship. For 2021, they fully renewed their lineup for the first time in their history, bringing in talent and money. That's exactly what they need, money. As much as we all love to hate Mazepin, it's clear that without him, we might now have a 9-team grid. And coming into 2022, the CNC manufacturer's commitment seems to dwindle a bit more every race. Still, with a lineup consisting of a rookie with Schumacher blood and an F2 championship at hand, and the, for legal reasons alleged, sexual predator, they have struggled more than ever. Even though Haas agreed to stay for 5 more years, it doesn't mean the team can change ownership, and with a livery like this one, it seems like that could well be the case, with remarks that the team as an entity won't leave, but never that Gene Haas or the Haas name would stay past 2021. Right, so to recap, came in as a new team, started off great, built up inertia that made them get ahead of the midfield for 2018, then had a straight up bad car for 2019, that was followed by a sponsorship catastrophe, then a massive accident that made all the headlines before bringing in the Russian mafia to take a controlling stake. If you ask me, they could have made a reality show with all this drama. Alright, so this has been my first video in quite a while. I'm sorry for the radio silence, I just haven't been feeling it, and hopefully I'm going to get back to it as soon as possible. As always, if you liked the video, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and I will see you all next time.